Gold is the primary currency metal, and it's the metal against which they revalue currencies when they do an overnight reset.
Gold is unique in that it's both a commodity and a currency. So some investors will hold it purely as a financial asset, and others may hold it in jewelry form so it can be enjoyed, but also it's a way of storing wealth as well.
It's a really fascinating asset. It's been around for a long time, which just shows the power of what it's been and how it's played into the market.
And I know that it's a little challenging for people to realize this, but we're all experiencing a huge amount of inflation right now, although that it's going to get worse. There's not one doubt in my mind. I can't guarantee this, but I'm pretty darn sure that we are at the beginning of a hyperinflationary event. And the only difference between inflation and hyperinflation is the speed of that inflation. The problem is that there's virtually no purchasing power left in the US dollar. Now, and people go, oh, you're crazy. I still use that when I go to the store and I buy stuff online, etc. But if you go on the Federal Reserve's website, the FRED, F-R-E-D, and in the search bar, you put in purchasing power of the consumer dollar, what you'll see is that there's officially 3 cents left out of the original dollar's worth of purchasing power, which means it's worse than that. And all of this inflation that we're experiencing, we are losing rapidly whatever little bit of purchasing power is left. And so the bottom line to all of that is that we are at the end phase, the end of this fiat, this government debt-based money. And that is one of the patterns is very high inflation. Like your viewers may have seen on, the talking heads on CNBC or read in the paper that it's like the 70s or it's like the 80s, and they'll go back, wow, this hasn't happened since 1974. Well, we were shifting at that point from a gold-based currency into a debt-based currency. One of the other repeatable patterns is the war. So if you'd been watching my work, I've been saying that because wars always accompany these currency regime shifts, because now you're looking over here and then the war can justify this huge spike in that inflation. You indicated that Russia was talking about selling their oil for gold, but they're also talking about selling not just their oil, but possibly all of their largest exports in rubles. So creating like a petrogas ruble, right? Which is what the US did with the petrodollar back in the 70s when we were losing our status as the world reserve currency. So there are what the world has now seen the US do to Russia and the allies as well is cut them out of the global system. So any of the wealth, any of the assets that the government or a lot of the oligarchs in Russia held outside of Russia, they don't have access to it anymore. Because here's a simple fact. If you don't hold it, you don't own it. It's huge. If everything you have is in the cyberspace, this is getting to be, look, it's easier to steal your money. They don't even have to try to break into your house. All they have to do is hack into your account, right? It's easy to sit there with the code. And the way that it all ties in is that the powers that be, so over at the IMF and the BIS and all these guys, they actually want you to own nothing and be happy. And the title of everything that you do currently own, they want it held on tokens in the ethosphere, which, I know that they like to say that you can't, that this is unhackable, but I think it's pretty easy to see that that's not true. That we can't really keep up with the speed of the new developments and the ability to hack. And it just puts everything that you own in a lot more jeopardy, and it puts all of your wealth in jeopardy. Because if you can't even hold, I know this is, let's see, what does it say? This is copy money, right? But actually real dollars are also copy money of this, right? But if you can't even hold something out of the system to protect your wealth, then it means that you are completely 100% vulnerable. That's not a position I want to be in. But that's how it all ties in, because it's easier to control if you own nothing, if you hold nothing, and it's easier to dictate by central banks. Right now, it takes 17, 18 months of working through the system to see if their policies work. Once everything is in digital form, well, they're going to know whether or not their policies work pretty instantly. And if you're not spending enough, they're going to force you to spend it or lose it. So what'll most people do? But I dare say they're going to have to give them the money to spend, because that breakdown in PCE is significant. I mean, that's probably one of the most significant pattern shifts that I've personally ever seen. And I've been doing this on some level my entire life. Gold is the primary currency metal, and it's the metal against which they revalue currencies when they do an overnight reset. Silver is the secondary monetary metal. And it has, while both of them are used in manufacturing, silver has a lot more manufacturing use. Gold does not get used up in production. In industry, it's all recoverable. So we can account for about 98% of it. All the gold that's ever been mined in thousands of years, silver gets used up. It too, I mean, it is absolutely preposterous that it's trading at like 24, 25, 26 bucks an ounce when the ETF, the silver ETS, SLV, had to change their prospectus to state that the pricing, they couldn't get enough silver to create the baskets. So the pricing on the SLV was going to reflect the spot price, which is frankly all they were designed to do anyway. You don't really own silver or gold underneath it. So you will see silver move toward its fundamental value along with gold. But it's not going to be Wall Street that's telling you what its true value is. It's going to be the central banks when they do those overnight revaluations. And I would like to say that even when we go into the digital currency, the digital dollar, people will think, oh, well, then that's going to fix the system. But no, because they're not going to change their behavior. What absolutely 100% has to happen is that all of the debt that we've accumulated, the trillions and trillions and trillions of debt that has been globally accumulated, needs to be burned off. And that's what the hyperinflation is really about, is burning off all of that debt. And then it becomes obvious to everybody that the dollars, wherever you are in the world, euros, yen, whatever it is, that they have absolutely zero value.